Hello, it's so good to see you guys. Look who's here. I always love to see you. Hi. Hi, Roni. Hi, honey. Yeah. Hi, Christine, Nazi, Elisa, Megan, Janice. I love to see you. Jelaine, hi. It's good to see you again. And Cheryl, always good to see you. Fred, how you doing? It's good to see all of you. I'm glad you're here. Megan, look at you. You look cute today. I like your hair like that. So, welcome to Ask Me Anything, which is a rather audacious title. But I always make an effort, and we do hope that the anything you're asking me about is sacred anatomy. All right. And here's here's Elisa saying, we practitioners, let me just open up what you've written your thing here. Okay, she says, we practitioners use energy generators to support clients. Is it possible when we have a client's thought form on our altar to feel in our structure the presence of, for example, a signature or an astral moving in the client's thought form as a signal to proceed with removal? If we have multiple client thought forms close together and open, can it happen that they influence each other energetically? Nobody's ever asked me that. That's such a cool question. Wow, I love it. Um, you can, when you tune in to the thought form, you can feel them. I mean, you can feel if somebody's got some activity moving. Um, for me, I purposely set the thought forms in an area of my office that I don't sit by or stand by. So they're away from me so that I don't feel all of them. But when I know somebody's in trouble, like, we have a mutual friend with a broken leg. So when you have someone like that that's in trouble and you have a thought form running for them, I stay more connected with somebody who's in a crisis. And that is when you might feel an incursion of an energy or signature pop up or something. But generally, I try to keep myself really edgy around all of that, so that I keep my edge really strong, so that I don't pick up all that miscellaneous information that may or may not have anything to do with me. You know, because sometimes people have signatures that move through, or they even might have an entity that moves through, but they're not staying. It's like it's moving. Or they might be in an argument with their husband, and you might feel like heat coming off of them. But if you have enough distance from them, you don't have to go through the argument with them. You don't have to experience that. So I try to encourage people to stay really clear about the edge when you're working with thought forms. It's important to remember that you don't necessarily want to engage with that you know stuff that's happening in their own world at their own time. When you set up thought forms, you do need to leave a few inches between them. Like, I at times I'll have so many thought forms on my thought form altar that they're about an inch apart, but I never have them touching. And that's precisely for that reason, so that there's a distinct field that I'm interacting with. So there you go. Ah, my bat cave on.
Thank you very much.
You're
This is
welcome, hon.
really useful.
Okay. Now, I think there's also a question from Nazi here, the terrific Nazi. You have once identified the following soul as a dynamic. Okay, I may need you to interpret this a little. You have once, hi. Okay, so I have to say hi to Elizabeth, and Ridza, and Rosamond, and Jensen. Hello, hello, hello. It's good to see everybody. And Diane's here too. Yay. How great. How great, great, great. Okay. So, Janice, where did you get that amazing shirt? I love that. It's very Florida, you know? It's very Caribbean. I love it. Gorgeous. All right, let's go back to Nazi's question. You have once identified the following soul.
No, just stop, full stop. Soul is the dynamic creative impulse that is directly connected to the divine source. And spirit is the thing that is created out of the friction of I am and I am not. Okay? Full stop. In anchoring self-identity with either of the definition, is it fair to say that soul is the continuous source-connected creative impulse that we should identify with the source rather than with the spirit? That's my question. Is it fair to say that?
I don't think it's fair to identify with one and not the other.
Okay.
Because we sort of need both components to be able to move effectively in the world. So we need to remember that we're in touch with the one, the all, the great, the I am. We need to remember we're in touch with everything that is, that we are in fact an element of creation, right? We need to remember that. But then we also need to remember that we're a co-creative partner with creation. So spirit is emergent movement arising from I am and I am not. And that is it's sort of the thing that drives us. It's a thing. Our spirit is what makes us say, why am I here? Our soul is not. Our soul says, yeah, we're idiot, you know. You don't remember? The spirit is the part of us that's questing and seeking, you know, and soul is often the one who's answering. So it's important that we ask the question, but it's also important that we listen to the answer. And ultimately, we are, you know, neither of those things. Eventually, we become part of the great vastness of all. Eventually, when you grow up, we get to be, when we grow up, part of the great unknown, the great vastness, and that's fun.
The reason why I ask is I sense that the state of spirit between the fluctuation between I am and I am not sounds like a transient state, meaning I'm neither this or nor that, or it's something that's fluctuating.
No, it's the friction. It's the, so whenever you have change of any kind, there's a kind of a friction. So you could think of the spirit as the driver of change, you know, that in us that wants to reach out and be part of more, or that wants to be in service, that wants to share. That part of us is our spirit moving in us all the time. All the time. So when we embody our presence, essence, spirit, when we embody that, then that essence of who we are, that essential energy that is our own personal spark, gets a chance to shine, you know? You don't get to do that unless you're in a body. And when you're in a body, you know, you've got to take that opportunity to shine. That's it. You're on. Let's go, you know? The overture is finished. This is it. Sing the opening song.
I love that answer. And just to be clear on this, the anchoring of the self-identity, you're saying sometimes it's with the soul and sometimes it's with the spirit. It's not one or the other. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that we are both. And so when we identify as, you know, that's who I am, that's me, that's my identity, it's an electromagnetic event. You know, it has to do with the ego. It has to do with, you know, kind of, you know, I own this dowsing rod. You know, it's not my soul that's saying I own this dowsing rod. It's my egoic nature, and the egoic nature and the spirit work together to bring soul's purpose forward. So the egoic nature is also very important. We have to have a strong ego to stand in partnership with the divine source. If you don't have a strong ego, you really can't show up. And that doesn't mean you have to behave like a jerk. It means that you are strong in the truth of who you are. And that's extremely important, because why else are you here? You know, you're here to work, you're here to get stuff done, you're here to grow, you're here to expand, you're here to give thanks, to share blessings. You're here for good reasons, lots of good reasons, you know, and you're not here to collect money necessarily. I'm proving that. No, it's a joke. We obviously need money to live, but it's not who we are, is it? Yeah, it's something we have. It's not who we are. Egoically, we may think it's who we are, but then we're kind of off track. So as soon as you realize that you're not your possessions, you know, you're not your beauty or your unattractiveness, you know, you're not your face particularly, then you can really start showing your true face, which is the face of peace and compassion, awakened awareness, the face of your four aspects, the face of your enlightened being. That can begin to be there, but you don't get there without going through the manifestation of spirit, which is, yes, your true self, your identity. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Okay, we've got a question from Jelaine from the Netherlands. I'm so happy you're here. One of our practitioners, Lauren, has her daughter has moved to the Netherlands with her kids, and she is going for a visit to the Netherlands. I should connect you with her.
Hmm.
If you're interested in meeting an actual sacred anatomy energy medicine practitioner in person.
I have my own. I have Cheryl as my practitioner.
Cheryl's your practitioner?
Yeah, she is.
Oh, great. Well, if you'd like to also meet Lauren, she's going to be there.
Okay.
Let Cheryl know, and Cheryl will hook you up.
Thanks.
But stick with Cheryl because she's brilliant. She truly is. So your question, when tuning into people to read their energy, how do I know I'm doing this with my HEMF or from the edge? I guess I've always done it with my HEMF. How do I do this from the edge? And how can I sense I am doing it right? Have you taken the edge class?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
I'm doing my practice every day, but I'm puzzling this one. Yeah.
How do you know you're doing it from the HEMF or from the edge?
Yeah, because it happens. It just happens when I speak to someone, and
then you tune into their energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to be cautious to keep your electromagnetic field pulled in. It's one of the things that will help you control it. If your electromagnetic field is reaching out, stretching out to connect, oh, there's somebody I'm interested in, I'm going to reach out and grab them, then, you know, you end up being in a situation where you're, you know, I guess the way I would put it is you're constantly letting yourself be dragged hither and yon by other people's needs. You know, they need you, they need to express something, they're demonstrating and you're going there. So it's the equivalent of being like directed off course by bright and shiny objects, you know? So the edge practice allows us to use the seat of compassion in our energy structure, which is the edge. That's where the greatest sense of compassion is. Whereas the electromagnetic field is more like, I'm curious. Let me see what's going on there. Or, oh, look at that. That's a pretty dress, or something. And you get kind of pulled off. Or, oh, they're dealing with something really heavy right now. I can feel it. So that's not the edge. But when you're touching them from that place of real conscious compassion, it's almost like there's nothing there but the peace of that place. So even when people are distressed, you can feel their potential and you can sense the possibility of who and what they are truly. You don't have to read them. Reading is, I know a lot of people do it. I mean, they do it unconsciously, and some people have learned to do it. It's actually kind of invasive,
Yeah.
And so when you do it with your HEMF, you are truly invading their space.
I don't know, because when I talk to my husband and he tells something about a coworker, then I just sense the character of the coworker, what they are dealing with, and then it seems logical because it's helping him to understand what's happening in this situation. But I think, am I intruding? Because I do not want that, but it just happens.
Well, you can get psychic information at the edge, and it's generally filtered through a lot of compassion. Like, it's not a judgment. If it turns to be like, well, that's a bad person.
No, never.
Yeah,
No,
anytime you're going there, that's real electromagnetic.
No, normally it's for him to understand what's happening, and that's normally a beautiful thing, because he tends to get more loving about this person.
Well, then you're helping him from a compassionate place, and that would be the edge.
Yeah.
So that's the distinction. One is invasive and judgy. The other is not invasive and compassionate.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's the power of that particular part of the anatomy, is that it allows you, whether you know what to do with it or not, it allows you to experience compassion. It sounds like you're trying very much to help your husband see the bigger picture, which is very admirable.
Yeah. And normally I can also see the spark in people. So normally it brings me to their best sides when I look at them.
Well, that's wonderful. See, there's nothing wrong with actually seeing people and feeling them and having an experience of them. There's nothing wrong with that,
Okay, I thought so, because I thought, I'm doing this wrong.
Right. No, there's nothing wrong with that. The only time it gets creepy really is when you're when you're in the HEMF and you don't have permission, and you kind of invade their space. And that usually has a lot of judgment with it.
And how do I know I am doing that?
Well,
because
you have to assess where it's coming from in yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So it's difficult.
Yeah, well, nothing worth really understanding is easy, particularly. I mean, that's one of the things about sacred anatomy, energy medicine, is it's not easy. I mean, you have to learn how to do this. And the people that are attracted to it are generally pretty motivated to change their lives in such a way that they're living in a happier place. And sometimes you have to travel through difficulty to get there. I mean, that's just kind of the way it works. And it's not, there's nothing wrong with the path. It's just the path,
Yeah. Okay.
So here we are with Fred. Thank you, Jelaine. Thank you so much. How far does the core extend beyond the edge? Well, we don't know. We don't know, Fred. It may go into outer space. I'd have no clue. It just goes. It's out there somewhere. And also at the bottom it goes. So, but it tends to dissipate. So like I don't see it beyond a certain point, beyond about 5 or 6 feet above a person's structure. it dissipates so much that I don't really see it. But if you look at the concept, okay, Cheryl, here's a graphic, the web of Indra. If you look at the web of Indra, which is this ancient writing, maybe as old as 10,000 years old, coming from the Rig Veda. And they basically said there were elements of time and space that crossed, and at the crossing point was a jewel hanging in space. And the crossing and the lines that crossed created a massive web. And so we have an interesting graphic to share with you in a minute.
Well, thank you. And I very much appreciate the answer, the previous answer too, as far as further defining compassion as part of the edge. My reason for asking the question is that by stopping my connection to the earth within my sacred anatomy, right before the edge, there's a sense of incompleteness there for me, and I don't know if that's a habit or it's just an awareness. And so that notion of it seems somewhat satisfying, just on an intuitive basis, thinking that, well, at least the core is extending through beyond my edge to the planet. I was mainly focusing on my connection to Gaia, to Earth. But again, my mind is getting in the way of questioning all of that and wondering how it works in my ignorance. And so I'm going with how I'm feeling about it, but I'm also looking for some clarity.
Well, I think our connection with the planet is not dependent on extending any part of your structure into the planet, even though if you're standing on the planet, the whole bottom half of the lower hemisphere is in the earth. But if you're conscious of your edge and you're aware of your edge is being accepted into Gaia, and you're there. Are you not finding that picture, Cheryl? Isn't that funny? I wonder where it is.
I only can find the jewel, just the one.
Huh. Okay. Too bad. We have a nice picture. It's somewhere. Show us the jewel anyway, so you can see this.
Before the edge practice, I was doing connection to the core of the planet, and I got a
Right.
sense that I was stopping that with the edge practice, and it felt, shall we say, from habit or just from a feeling sense, it feels incomplete to me. So that's why I was looking for some resolution to that.
Yeah, I heard you. I heard you. I'm actually meandering to the answer here.
Okay.
So there's a picture of the jewel as,
Wow.
as we think of it. But
Ah.
if you can imagine those lines stretching out and crossing other lines in space,
Yeah.
every time there's two lines crossing, there's another jewel. This is the ancient Vedic understanding of souls in that are not embodied. So this is kind of where we're going with this. And I was talking about this, and then one of my students said, "Have you ever read the Rig Veda?" And I said, "No." She brought it in, and it was this quote that just outlined exactly what I was describing. So thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about, you're bereft because you're not touching into Gaia in that way. And you've removed your cord essentially from the core of the earth, and you're containing yourself at the edge, and that's all happening, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're lonely for that connection that you felt before.
Lonely, or I'm feeling, I don't know, loneliness is one way of describing it. I'm feeling expansive beyond that. So
Expansive beyond.
I'm feeling a connection, and I'm trying to sort it out and honor the edge practice.
Well, I think that I think that it's hard to say you're not connected to the earth. I mean, we're on the earth, we are earth people.
Hmm.
Some people think they're from outer space. Not recently. I mean, we're here. So, of course you're connected to the earth. You're connected to the earth in a million ways. That's what baffles me about putting a single grounding cord into the planet. First of all, it's, she's a different species, so that's not a good idea.
Huh.
But we're connected through every molecule in our physical body, and every single part of the subtle structure is connected to the earth.
Well, see, I feel that, and the concept of just containing with the edge seems to be, I'm unable to resolve that so far on a feeling sense. So,
Well, it could very well be that you're just going to the edge in part of your structure as opposed to the entire edge.
okay.
That was something I used to see with people. They would put their hands out and they would like visualize themselves going to the edge, and then they would be at the edge in an area about that big.
Huh.
Here and here, And that's why we started saying edge 360. So when you draw the edge 360, you're literally drawing this whole huge circle around yourself, front and back, left and right, kitty corner and kitty corner. And then you're kind of like filling in the orange wedges. And at that point, you are a contained sphere. So you're not disconnected in any way.
Hmm.
So I think that might be what's going on with you.
Okay. Well, I'll continue to pursue it. It just is curious because I feel definitely connected to the planet. And it somehow seems the edge practice seems to be an abbreviation of that in some way. So I'll focus on the 360 part more.
The truth of the matter is, when you walk in the woods, okay? So let's put ourselves in the woods, and we're walking down a path in the woods, or even tromping through an area that isn't a path. We're just in nature.
Hmm.
And when you're in nature, are you only in nature with your feet?
No.
Right? So you're in nature with the totality of your beingness. And that's what the edge is. It's the totality of your beingness. It's accepting that you're more than a physical body. You're more than an electromagnetic field, which is the focus has been on for about 100 years on that. You're the subtle structure as well, which is your soul structure. So your soul is interacting and connecting as a whole being with nature, which is a whole being. So when you're interacting with a tree, you're interacting with the wholeness of your being. You may put a hand on a tree and a foot on a root, but your whole being is there with the tree. So there is no separation between us and nature. So the fact that you have an edge does not take you out of the universe or take you out of the natural connection. The fact that you have an edge gives you the opportunity to have a stronger relationship with those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you can come at a tree with the wholeness of compassion for what that tree has experienced and what that tree is and what it's doing in the totality of the forest and what it's holding. And you can talk to it. So talking to trees, talking to plants, talking to cats, we can do that. And it's way improved by the edge.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, your animals will take you seriously. I mean, usually they're like, oh God, here comes the food machine, you know? Maybe it'll pet me. But it's important when you're at the edge to realize that they see that and they make a connection with you that's totally different.
Huh.
I mean, you can go to the zoo at the edge and make a connection with caged animals and bring them compassion and love, and they'll do things that are just completely out of the ordinary. They'll walk towards you and stand, a hippo walking towards you and standing and staring at you.
Wow.
You know, at the edge, those things happen. So I think it's extremely cool to realize that this compassionate nature that we have the capacity to experience doesn't have a limit.
That's helpful. That's very helpful.
You know? When you're grounding into the earth, man, that's the limit. There's a limit there.
Well, if I may ask again back to my original question, I was getting some satisfaction, and again, it's more mentally trying to understand what I was feeling, that, well, at least that divine aspect, that core was extending to the earth and beyond and connecting maybe at that divine level with the earth. Is there a misnomer in that, or
Here's the deal.
To the cosmos for that matter too? So.
Cheryl, can you show us a picture of the blended energy system composite? So here's the thing. We have a chakra that is devoted to our relationship with the planet. It's called the axis chakra. It's about 18 inches to 24 inches below our feet. You see, look at those roots coming down out of the lunar. So roots come down out of the feet, and there's the lunar between the ankles, and then roots come down to the feet, and see that next bubble? It's the second one up from the bottom. The bottom is the chi pool, then there's the axis chakra from the bottom. And you see all that stuff that's kind of running through it?
Yeah.
It's the way we connect down into our chi pool, and the chi pool is storing very sort of concentrated chi that allows us to move energetically through the world. It's important to realize that the axis chakra connects us to not just the planet, but it connects us to other people, to our community. So that chakra, which is below our feet and in the earth, if you're standing on the ground of the planet, is like a matrix in the earth. So there is a connection, and you do have a connection to that place. Now, right below that, Cheryl, can you show the picture of the universal human resonating chamber? So there's a chamber that's located right below that chakra, and that chamber stretches outside of the structure and all throughout the earth. And it is how we connect. But it isn't just the earth, it's how we connect to our species.
Yeah.
So
we're
working
with Cheryl, that has come up with issues. So I appreciate the chamber more. But
okay, so see the cloud thing there? That's what it is. And what we're looking at there, so you see that little blue guy's ankles, and then down below it, that's the axis chakra. So if you're looking at that, you're seeing the human universal resonating chamber, and that chamber is chock-a-block with interconnectedness. And we have the ability to enter that chamber and connect with people all over the world. So how many of you experienced when that huge tsunami hit in Indonesia? Do you remember that? So long ago now, it's about 10 years ago. People felt it in their feet. People felt it in their bodies. People could feel it coming. And that's the same with really big earthquakes. When we have these 7-point earthquakes, like when there was the, 7.8 earthquake in Mexico City. I mean, you can feel that stuff because you're tuned into the species.
Mhm.
Thanks, Cheryl. Come back to me. So the structure has built into it that thing that you're wishing for. It's already happening. And the edge gives us the ability to use those parts of our structure intelligently, capably, so that we're not losing ourselves in the process. Because that's one of the things that's really important for people to realize, is that spiritual evolutionary development doesn't mean you're losing yourself. Spiritual evolutionary development means that you're learning who you are, what yourself is.
Hmm.
And as you learn more and more about who you are, you begin to realize that you don't need the defenses, you don't need the judgments, you don't need so many things. And you can begin leading from your heart. You can begin not just using your head to connect, but using your heart and your gut. You can begin connecting with people because that's who you are. You are human. It's the next evolutionary development for humanity, is to realize who we are. It's not just happenstance. And believe me, you're not here just out of dumb luck. It's not just a biological imperative that you're here. You're here for a reason. You're here to do something specific. And maybe it only is going to affect you, but it's also possible that it'll affect many others. Chenson, one of our wonderful practitioners, you see her down there in the lovely pink. Chenson developed an amazing piece called Mending Reconnection. And that is a mending connection. And that piece deals with the human universal resonating chamber. And she leads people through a process to heal their own connection with humanity. It's a very beautiful piece that she created. We worked on it for a long time, a couple of years, and boy, she's out, and maybe she'll teach it again really soon. I hope you will, Chenson. Maybe Fred would like to take that class because it's a great class. And the thing that's wonderful about having such wonderful practitioners is that they begin developing procedures at a certain point. And then I get to say, hey, go check it out because it's cool. It's really, really neat. So, let's see, there was another question here from Janice. You have said that you see structures of a new baby lurking around a pregnant mother, and that you see our structure floating away after the electromagnetic field collapses. Do you ever see other non-corporeal structures floating around? A lot, yes. Yes, I see ghosts. Non-corporeal people. I definitely do. I can tell you ghost stories. I mean, those are fun. But the main thing is to realize that angels and fairies and ghosts and spirits and spirit guides and teachers and all of these unseen creatures, unseen beings, that there's so many of them that it's surprising more people don't see them, because there's so many of them. So babies, when they're creating a body, stick to the edge of the mother's structure. And when somebody is trying to get pregnant, you hope you see little lights floating around the mother. So it'll look like little lights. And that's the baby trying to get in. And then when people die, the electromagnetic field releases, it collapses, it begins disintegrating almost immediately. And the subtle structure separates from the physical body and the electromagnetic field. So the two things separate. So some of you may have seen, if you've been with somebody who died, you may have seen a light rising to the ceiling and maybe a lavender energy or green energy. Some people see lavender or green floating in the air above a dead body or someone who's just died, you know. And then other people see like golden light leaving the body, and that's the subtle anatomy letting go and leaving. And there's a disconnection process just as there is a connection process. So there's a thing called ensoulment that happens, and then there's a death, which is the disensoulment, letting go of the body, no longer ensouled in the body, and moving on from there, which is a wonderful thing, truly a wonderful thing.
But the light body also leads with the soul.
The light body, there we are. Let's talk about the light body. So the light body is the only part of the sacred anatomy that's made up of both electromagnetic energy and subtle energy sort of equally. And the light body is inside of the physical body. It's like a cardboard cutout. It's kind of flat. You know, there's the light body. And it's just photonic light, which is generated electromagnetically, but it's combined with a subtle light. And subtle light and photonic light create the light body. So it's what healers work on. When you're working on the physical body, you're actually working on the light body if you're doing subtle work. If you're doing physical work and you're pushing into muscles, that's different. But if you're working with the light body, you're generating focused energy to enter into, as let's say, an organ in the light body to help it function better. And that's where people work. They work in the light body. And so that's why in sacred anatomy, energy medicine, we rebuild stuff. We rebuild a missing kidney. We rebuild, women's uteruses after they've had a hysterectomy. And then we place it in the light body so that the light body kind of holds the integrity of the physicality. So when people die, the photonic influence of the light body lifts up and goes with the electromagnetic field. But what remains in the subtle structure is a kind of outline of all the organs and parts of a physical body out of subtle energy, so that it's like a template or a pattern for when another human body wants to incarnate into this particular soul's structure.
And does that reside in the cognitive layer?
The light body?
You mean when you talk about the organs and so forth that remain?
No, that's not in the cognitive layer. That is literally in the physical body, but when the physical body goes, it stays in the template. So it's like a cutout in the template. Whereas the cognitive layer, let's go ahead and look at a picture of the cognitive layer, Cheryl. So with the cognitive layer, we have 3 strata that are devoted to being able to talk to the bodies, all the bodies, the physical body, the subtle body, every part of us. So there's a part of this structure. If you will look here, you see the bottom, that's organs. And these are fanciful. I mean, we don't look exactly this way, but it's fun to see the organs floating in space. So there are organs, and they're like little caves, and you go in within the structure, and you go into the little cave, and you can talk to the right lobe of the lungs, for example, or the left lobe of the lungs. And you can help people find greater health and well-being. The second one is structural, so that would be bones and the skeleton and skeletal muscular system. And it also includes the bones of light. It also includes things like the caduceus, which you can see floating there on the left. and the skull, which you can see floating there, and the spine, all those things. And then the next one is systems. So the organs in the skeleton have systems that they work with. For example, the cardiovascular system, or so you wouldn't just work with heart and lungs, you'd work with the whole system, the cardiovascular system. But it also includes things like the layers or the blended energy system. So the subtle systems are accessible in this little series of caves. And there's, it's not so little, it's pretty good size. The last one is point of transmutation, which is where change takes place within the structure to move from idea into material reality. So there's actually a location in the structure where that is augmented and focused, and there's a lot of parts in the point of transmutation that we work with in sacred anatomy, energy medicine. Okay, is there another question? Anybody wants to raise their hand and speak up? Janice, and then Elizabeth.
We have some on the chat also, Desda.
What?
We have questions in the chat.
Really? I didn't see them.
Yes, the next question is from Chensen, and she asks, is consciousness the culmination of the spirit and the soul embodied in presence? What is the relationship between consciousness and love? So 2 questions, and then a third one, how does the essence of love impact consciousness? So 3 questions. Let's go back to, is consciousness the culmination of the spirit and the soul embodied in presence?
Okay, and I feel bad that I called on Janice. Can you wait a second, Janice? Is that okay? All right. And Elizabeth, I'm going to answer these chat questions, and then I'll jump on the 2 of you. Okay, is consciousness the culmination of the spirit and the soul embodied in presence? I think of spirit as presence. I don't think you separate the two. And I think that essence, spirit, and presence can be thought of as the same thing. So when I say embody your presence, I'm saying embody your spirit, embody your essence. And so I wouldn't say that that's what consciousness is. Consciousness is the mind of the soul, you know, and it's also the mind of the totality, the all, the isness. And we are not really separate from that. We are part of that. We are part of the consciousness of all creation. We are that. And so you can't really separate it out into different things. So soul is the all and the totality, and your presence is the way that you generate a relationship with that soul. That presence is you're generating essential connection with your own soul. Does that make sense? Did that land?
That's really helpful, because as a practitioner, I tell clients that our work is about the expansion of their conscious capacity. And so the inquiries of, okay, well, help me understand consciousness and SAEM. So I want to make sure that as we continue
It's
to
not that hard. It's
Yeah.
not that hard. The subtle structure is the structure of consciousness.
Okay.
Our subtle structure is consciousness. It's focused and intention used with consciousness. The subtle energy of all creation is the energy of consciousness. Consciousness is what the universe is made of. It's not made of anything else. It's made of consciousness. I mean, in many ways, that's what energy is. Energy is consciousness, and the universe is consciousness.
Whereas the spirit or the divinity, or the embodiment of presence, is also consciousness, but
it's individuated.
It's individuated.
Yeah. So we have the totality and the individuation. And the individuation is your take on things, your bringing into material reality your experience of the divine, like just as much as you can. So when we're little babies, we start out fully formed. Babies don't need to be fixed or developed. Babies are. They're all there. You just basically have to stay out of their way. Wouldn't it have been nice if your mom and dad would have stayed out of your way? I mean, loving someone means really allowing someone. And obviously, there's guidance that's required, but it is necessary when you talk about the relationship between consciousness and love. The heart is the center of love in the physical body, and it's also the center of hate in the physical body. And at one point years ago, I used to tell my practitioner students, who were apprentices at that time, I used to say, don't love me. Whatever you do, don't love me. Please don't love me. Because love, unfortunately, often has an agenda. Consciousness, as it exists, does not have an agenda other than expressing. But if we start getting into consciousness and conscious, when we become conscious, we begin to be capable of understanding consciousness. And that's that moment of awakening. So when you reach awakening, that's like a stage. You awaken. Oh, I'm getting up. You awaken. And then you can begin to experience the beauty of your own consciousness when you awaken. And that helps you become conscious. So then you can think of yourself as a conscious being. That, it's a journey. It's a journey. And I know people have gone on and on about love is all there is and love is the answer, and love conquers all. And I agree. I agree. It's true. And it's not true.
No, I'm asking this question because I noticed that over the past year, you've actually made more reference to love as our essence. So I'm just trying to connect that.
I think love is kind of it's a good word because we all kind of have an idea of what love is, whereas very few of us understand what presence means or consciousness. But love, we got love. We can do love. We know what love means. I love my cat. You have love. And so I began to use it more and more frequently. But for years, I stayed away from using it too much because love has such an agenda attached to it for most people. I love you if you love me.
So
You're
that's
not
unconscious love, right? Versus conscious love.
Yes, conscious love is a different story. Because I would put that more in the bucket of compassion. So when it moves from love, a neediness, into compassion, which is acceptingness, an accepted place, then I think we have a greater capacity to help and care for others. I really do. So now I'm going to pop over to Janice.
Yes, and I want to apologize, Janice. I didn't mean to. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Oh, good. Thank you, honey.
Okay, well, my question is pretty easy, probably. You've showed us how to what's it called? Accommodate your body, like attune yourself to medicines or things that are implanted in your body so that they become part of you.
I
Tuning.
taught you how to attune the medicine to be in alignment with you.
Right. So it's
So
more help.
You don't change. The medicine changes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's frequency.
So the frequency. So the question is, if you've done that once in your life for a medicine, do you have to do it every time you take it? Or once you're attuned, are you attuned?
Once you're attuned, you're attuned.
Okay.
Every now and then somebody falls out of attunement if the dosage is changed dramatically.
Okay.
You know? And then you'd reattune. That's all. It was a good question. It was a good question. I liked your question. All right, Elizabeth, it's your turn, and then I'm going to go to Cheryl.
Hi. So this question seems to be related to things we've spoken about this week and also what happened last week where we were talking about birth and coming into being. So my question is, upon death, upon the dissolution of the HEMF and the biolayer, does the HES care at all about what happens to the biolayer if you're cremated or buried or some other cultural thing? Does it care at all? And does it change anything what happens for the next incarnation? And a specific question about that is, I believe the dissolution of the biolayer and the HEMF can take a while. So for people who choose cremation, does it matter when they're created, or is that even relevant to the larger HES structure of consciousness?
So here's the answer. It's really straightforward. No, the HES does not care. I mean, you can be eaten by crows in the desert, you know, you can evaporate in the sun, you can be dematerialized by a ray gun, you can be blown up by an atom bomb. The structure is, the soul isn't invested in the how of death.
Okay. So part of that is, suppose one dies immediately with an atomic blast or something unfortunate.
Yeah.
But the HEMF has not quite, and perhaps the part of the light body has not really had time to come out of the HEMS, or what is the word? The fabric is rent. There's not time for whatever. It doesn't matter. It can happen separately. The body, the bio layer does what it does, and everything else just continues and couldn't.
Right. Because the thing that's being destroyed by the atomic blast is the bio, the body. Right. So not the soul. And the electromagnetic field is blown apart by by a big blast like that, but it comes out very quickly. So in that case, the experience of the electromagnetic field leaving the physical body would be instantaneous. And,
right. Well,
and it would take parts of the light body with it. Now, ordinarily, in a normal life, it would be good to give the body 3 days to let go of the stuff, the electromagnetic field. And it's a way to, allow the physical body to kind of make peace with everything. And there's lots of different religions that do different practices. And if that's your religion, follow the practice. That the soul is so large and so capable that it isn't really attached to the way the body is dealt with. Now, if somebody has had a terrible trauma and their electromagnetic field has registered it, they may leave a piece of their electromagnetic field in a location where that trauma occurred. That's called a ghost. And usually ghosts walk a circuit. They have a specific place they appear. They don't just appear wherever you are. They appear very specifically in a very specific place. It would have to do with their own personal life trauma, and a little part of their electromagnetic field is left behind, and it's kind of activated in that place. So it's the trauma within a place and the electromagnetic energy of the place interacting with the electromagnetic energy of the person who's had an upset. So that's what a ghost is primarily. Now, if you've ever had, like, your grandmother died and the picture of your grandmother was knocked off the wall. Have any of you had something like that happen? Or the picture falls over, or, a particular thing that belonged to your grandmother falls to the ground. These are ways that people say goodbye. They're letting go. They're going. And there's lots of different ways that happens. Sometimes people appear to you in your dreams, or you'll even turn around quickly and they'll be standing there. You'll see them. And, a lot of that has to do with your own sensitivity and your connection with that person and how strongly they're connected to you. So I think I answered more than your question there, Elizabeth, but.
That was all part of the question, but I couldn't type it. My machine wasn't being very. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And
Okay.
Desda, I have a follow-up on that.
Okay.
Which is, if the part of the electromagnetic field is stuck as a ghost or as some other sort of attachment or tie or link that we've learned about, does this affect that person's electromagnetic field or whatever? Does it affect their soul making it through the veil?
It can't. It can't. So there's this thing that Saint Teresa of Avila wrote about a long time ago called the cloud of unknowing. And it's this sort of energetic sickness that has occurred between where we are here in this physical reality, and in her language, it would have been between us and heaven. So it would be like in purgatory, there would be this cloud of unknowing. And I have seen this thing, and it's definitely there. So when you leave your physical body, the cloud of unknowing can catch you and absorb your sort of your knowledge. So your structure is returned to sort of an empty state, and then you come right back in. You incarnate almost immediately. Instead of getting the value of having died, which is you get to go to the Temple of Wisdom and the Temple of Healing, and you get to hang out with Socrates, right? So it's really better if you can avoid the cloud of unknowing. But the people who tend to get caught in the cloud of unknowing are unconscious. So there's a level of consciousness that's required to make it through the cloud of unknowing. And that's why we encourage spiritual practice, for one of the many, many reasons. But, spiritual practice helps you do your practice all the way through death and all the way over. It's also why I teach my students to do a thing called the rainbow lights. So the rainbow lights, if done at the moment of death, will carry you forward. So they're valuable. They're very valuable. Some of these things I've taught people are very, very valuable. So I think, Cheryl, you had a question here.
Yes.
Do you want to say it or you want me to read it?
I'll say it.
Okay.
You earlier today, you said we need a strong ego to partner with Source. How does this relate to the idea of deconstructing the ego by removing a life pattern or an HEMF signature?
Well, we need a strong ego, but it needs to be free of garbage, and patterns and stuff we've collected. I mean, that's that's garbage. And so when we remove a life pattern, we're deconstructing the ego, but what we're doing is we're allowing the authentic self to emerge, which is the real egoic nature, the authentic self. And that's the soul self. So that begins to be the host of your egoic nature at a certain point. Okay, and Elizabeth, you did ask that. You did ask that question. Yeah, so I would advise you guys to wait 3 days before cremation. That's my personal advice to people. It gives you a chance to make peace with the person's death. It gives you a chance for them, if they're going to run around visiting people, it's easier for them to do it if there's a physical body that's still intact. Okay, Elizabeth, I think there's one more part to that question.
Right. It is related to what you said in Cheryl's excellent question. So when people we might consider evil or bad politicians, when they die, is there any way we can do rainbow lights for them or anything to encourage them to continue their journey up so they don't come right back in?
I think the best advice I have for how to support somebody like that who hasn't asked for your, you haven't asked for permission to work with them. So the best thing you can do is turn them over to the angelic army, basically. Turn them over to Archangel Michael and just let him deal with them. And Michael, removes astral entities and does all kinds of things. And he's the guardian of energy workers, So if you have the experience of finding out about someone who's died who was not a nice person in this life, you can ask that they're guided by the angelic realm, and that in and of itself is not invasive.
Right.
And it's also not religious, which is another, religion's invasive. So you don't want to bring your religion to bear on somebody's death. But if you call on the archangels or the angelic realm to help them in any way that they can, or, chances are they already are, but all you're doing is just sort of letting go of your animosity, your anger about that person, and you're turning it over to the angels. And believe me, they'll handle it correctly, because they don't want that person coming back in either. But we shall see.
Thank you. That gives us all hope, especially the
It's
younger
a
people.
little hope, yeah, a little hope. But the main thing is you don't want to electromagnetically send energy or, try to fix anybody in public office, unless you have permission to work with them. No matter what kind of jerk they are, basically that's karma, that you're creating karma with them. God knows you do not want karma with somebody like that, right? Although we may all have karma with somebody like that. So, just there's an expression, sending metta, sending like spiritual benefit, from years of spiritual practice. You have benefit built up and you can share that benefit if you want to send your benefit to someone. So if someone's really ill that I love, I might send metta to them. I might send benefit to them. So it's, it's a little bit spiritual materialism-y, but but it is something you can do, and people need things they can do.
Without permission? We can send it without permission.
You can send benefit to people without permission. You can't have an agenda for them. Like, I'm sending you my metta so that you can, come to the bosom of Christ. That's, You can't do that. So that's illegal. But you can definitely send, it's like sending goodwill or doing Ho'oponopono. Those are good things to do. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Diane Peterson has patiently had her hand up.
Just a quick follow-up question on death. So when someone's died and they're kind of running around visiting people, and so what if we're interacting with them, are we interacting with the totality of their HES and light body, or are we interacting with a portion of the totality of them at that point? I'm just curious, what exactly are we interacting with in the few days after death, if they are sticking around a little bit?
It's the electromagnetic field. So you're interacting with kind of their personality, their love for you, you know, and your love for them, and your desire to complete with them and their desire to complete with you. That's all an egoic event. The sacred and the subtle, the soul, it really doesn't need that. You know, it's like, have you ever had the experience of somebody dying that you know, and it's like, done, and they're just gone? That's a person who really didn't have a lot to complete. They were done. They were just done.
So if they are interacting, so we're interacting with their HEMF, is their structure still in the earth realm, or has it already continued on and, you know, gone on to the, you know, just basically split from the earth field? Like, how does that work? Or does it wait until their HEMF is completed?
Yeah, here's the thing. This is a little bit like, whoop! So buckle your seatbelt. So here's the thing. Your sacred anatomy is not contained by the earth field.
Okay, yeah.
So so right now, your sacred anatomy is not contained by the earth field. It's contained by the universe, by the isness, the allness of all existence. And when we touch into it, we're touching the divine. It's the divine you, but we're touching the divine. The individuated soul structure is not limited by the earth field.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So the one other question. So if we're doing, so my experience is there's a short window after death to do some further support for someone, as long as they're accessible. So that appears to be only as long as their electromagnetic field is still intact and hanging around. But then once it's done, then, you know, that's it in terms of supporting their HES in any way.
And it's usually about 3 days that they're, you know, kind of available. And they may not be available to you. That's the thing. They're going to be available to the people that they really need to be available to. And after they die, if, you know, I had this experience. I'm going to share my own experience with my mother's death. So my mother and I had an interesting relationship. It really got less and less and less as she got older. It was like at a certain point, I was like, I guess you're my mother. But, you know, at a certain point, I didn't really have this giant, like, oh, my mother heart thing going like I have with my daughter. But I didn't have that with my mother. And she was really angry at me for long periods of time. And I never could figure out why. So it was, you know, it was a very interesting relationship. And I just practiced loving her, just without agenda, just having compassion for her. When she died, she came to me and she pulled out of my neck like she took her hands off around my neck. She had been choking me for years, and she pulled she took her hands away from my neck. And all of a sudden I was like, thank you, But this was a living person who had been, trying to hold me, repress me in some way, keep me down. And when she took her hands off of me at death, I felt an incredible amount of freedom and, wished her well on her journey. That can happen. That can happen. People can be doing all kinds of strange stuff, especially if they have a little information. People that have taken a class, read a book, there can be a little psychic information and they're projecting their electromagnetic field. So it was her electromagnetic field. And I'm very experienced at releasing ghosts and demons and all this stuff. And I've had empowerments to do that. But man, I couldn't get my mother's hands around my neck to save my life. So her death was, I was really happy when that ended. Isn't that wild? Come on, that is wild. It was definitely wild.
So how old were you when your mom died?
Um,
How many years ago was that ballpark?
she died in 2022.
Oh, that's really recent.
Oh yeah,
You were
knew me. You knew me when my mom died.
Oh, that's right. There were so many people died that year or two.
Year.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
so many for you.
Yeah, I had
Your mother-in-law?
When my mother-in-law died, my mother
Aunt?
died, and my grandson was born, and my aunt died, and it was like everybody was dropping dead.
That
They
was
were all ancient. I mean, they were all super old. They had a lot of opportunity to take their hands off of my neck. She died at 95. Yeah, that was something. Well, you wonder how people get where they get when they become who they become, right? There's always interesting information in there about each of you. Yeah, Christine.
I feel to share this because it's so extraordinary. A friend, Suzanne, was a Buddhist, and she died, and the people around her kept her in her bed for 3 days after, so she could transition. And I was sitting there one day with her, and I was just sitting looking at her, and she frickin' smiled at me. Her body went into a total smile. It was just like, oh my gosh, woman, And the same with my sister when she passed too. I could see her in the bardo. She goes, "There's nothing here. There's nothing here." And I'm like, "It's okay," And then she came out and was just, So anyway, just wanted to share.
Thank you. Thank you. That's wild. Yeah, scientists would have a lot to say about that, but there's none here today, so. Cool. And you can hear people's voices after they go, because their electromagnetic energy is still here. So you can hear their voice speak to you sometimes. Any more questions? Any questions? Yeah, I want to say welcome to Nancy and Jasmine. It's nice to see you guys. Pop in. Hola. Hola, chica. Yeah, so you have no more questions. That's amazing.
This was a very deep and powerful conversation, Desda. I so appreciate it. And thanks to everyone with their questions that kind of continued us down this deeper understanding of our relationship to the cosmos.
Yeah, the big old cosmos. Right. Yeah. I like Star Trek. Do any of you watch Star Trek? I really like it. I really would like to be a member of the Federation. I think they're very nice people. And they're all different species, and they're getting along so nicely. Every now and then somebody has a problem, but everybody tries to work it out. I love how they work everything out. And by the end of the show, they always have worked it out. It's truly amazing. My favorite TV show. Jasmine, hi.
Hello, everyone. Just so that you bring that point, my question is, how far can we extend the edge? Like, can we extend it to the 256 galaxies of our sector? Like, how far can we go with the edge? Or do we use another structure just after a certain level or something?
Well, the edge, so the edge is consciousness. So you can go as far as your consciousness will take you. If you'd like to visit the Pleiades, you can make it happen. Your edge isn't going there. Your consciousness is going there. Your relationship with cosmic consciousness is taking you. So the edge itself doesn't extend, doesn't go out and find things. That's an electromagnetic field trick. That girl likes to just get out there and grab things. But the edge is more refined. It will stay in place. And the truth of the matter is that when we go to these magnificent journeys that we take, if we take a journey and we go to the upper realm, or we go to the lower realm, or we go to the middle realm, or we go to another planet and we have a vision of something, that isn't your edge taking you. That's the sum total of your consciousness. And the four aspects are in touch with, they have the four balls at the top of your structure that, when we see a picture, that are outside of the edge. They're in the universal. And they have the capacity to encourage that kind of travel, psychic travel, if you will. It's one of the reasons that there's the four aspects. See, they're outside. They're like actually inside, in the core. So the front and the back, they're in the core. They stick right out in the back. There's the four aspects. Physical aspects in front of the blue current, which is the function current. And then emotional and psychological are in front of the purpose current. And then the wisdom current is where the spiritual aspect sits. So those four aspects are the authentic self. So we have four different faces that we put out into the cosmos. So when we travel anywhere, really, we are those four faces. So you look a lot like a Hindi goddess, with four faces traveling into the stratosphere.
So we can travel, do psychic travel of our pure consciousness, but that is different than space travel.
It's completely different than space travel. I would like to do space travel. But here's the other thing.
Like with a light body,
well, then there's the people that do astral projection,
right, or the remote viewing.
And a lot of the folks who were in that remote viewing class, the first two classes of remote viewers that did a lot of the spying and stuff, many of them have committed suicide. So it's really difficult to and not something I would encourage you to do. Remote viewing is not, it's not necessary. It's not necessary to do it the way they did it. I was prospected by men in black suits who came to my door in 1960, I think it was 69. They came to my door and they asked me, we understand you're a medium, psychic medium. And I'm like, well, maybe. Who are you? and they said, well, we're forming a program where you could use your gifts and benefit the United States. And I said, all right, well, tell me about it. They said, this, that, and another thing. And then they said, so you would have to join the army. I was like, okay, done. We're done with this conversation. Because I would have to go through basic training, which no way in hell would I ever go through basic training. Not even at age 19. I wasn't doing it. Actually, I think I was still 18 then. But I was helping a lot of Vietnam families who had guys in Vietnam who were missing or perhaps dead. I was helping them find bodies. So that's how I got noticed by the powers that be at the time. Who knows what they're doing now? Have you ever been to Mendocino? Because if you haven't been to Mendocino, you got to go to Mendocino. Where are you, Jasmine?
I live in Mendocino, psychic.
You're a Mendocino psychic?
No, I said you are the psychic. I live in Mendocino.
Thank you very much. I like Mendocino a lot. And that's where you are. Very cool. See, now that was a situation where I was open to Jasmine and I picked up information about her. But I wasn't probing her. I wasn't looking for that information. I just knew it. So, where are you? The person who asked that question. Oh, there you are. Thank you. So, it happens, right? You just know something about someone. It's okay. You just can't let it matter that much. So are y'all prepared for February 20th? Everybody know what's happening on February 20th? Well, two major planets that move very slowly, Saturn and Neptune, are going to be at 1 degree Aries on the 20th of February. Not to mention a bunch of other rigmarole happening astrologically. A lot of stuff is happening between the 17th and the 20th. And maybe even after that, the 22nd or something. My advice to you is spiritual practice, spiritual practice, spiritual practice. It's whatever spiritual practice you do it a lot during that period, because it's going to be, the last time it was like that was the beginning of World War I. The time before was the beginning of the Civil War, and the time before that was the beginning of the Revolution. This is serious. So meditate, pray.
So there's something like that which should be universal. So here in America, and maybe for part of Europe, it was particularly meaningful to us and our particular wars.
French Revolution.
Okay. I was going to say, and in the other parts of the world, were there big going-ons as well? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll ask a historian.
Mexico, there was a big brouhaha about the same time as the Civil War. Right around the time of the Revolution, there was revolution that was beginning to occur in France. And England was in distress at the time. In the early part of the 20th century, we saw the Russian Revolution. So these things are impacted by astrology, that's all. Not to be, dramatic at all, but just to suggest that on a day when Aries is so focused it's a good idea to be peaceful as opposed to be pissed about something. So, how's Canada, Rudza? Rudza, is Canada distressed about that shooting?
Yes. I mean, everybody's stressed.
Yeah. We haven't seen a shooting like that in Canada in a long time.
My sister lives in BC, and I happened to call her up just when they'd heard that news on the radio, and she couldn't even speak to me. It was so upsetting.
Yeah. Well, we're so numb at this point. But we remember Columbine, right? We all remember those kind of events, right? So we must be the center for peace on this planet. And that's each one of our jobs. We can't all get together in the same room, but we can certainly get together in the same heart space and love our fellow man, feel compassion for their distress and their difficulty. Understand that the things that are happening right now are just outside of reality. They're crazy. The stuff that's going on right now is nuts. So the only way you can cope with it is to not become one of the nuts, but to step outside, to look at it and say, I hold compassion for all beings in distress. That's the best way to go at this point. Anybody else have any other ideas? Seems good.
I just wanted to add that the nadis, which are these palm leaves in India, has also predicted this event. A lot of people refer to the nadis, and I think the nadis predictions stop by 2030. So between now and then, there's going to be a hell of a lot happening.
Yeah, well, it's about a 4 or 5 year period of great difficulty.
What is interesting about it is that not only they predict, but they also provide solution. Their solution is to do puja.
Well, and there you go.
So we can change the outcome of whatever that may be by doing a lot of prayers as a collective. So just what you just described. So
yeah, I think it's incredibly important to realize that every time you're doing spiritual practice, there's benefit that goes out into the human field. There's benefit. Just like at the beginning of a Sacred Anatomy event, I always open a field. We're in the Sacred Anatomy field right now, but there is a human field, there is a global field, there is our shared species field, and that field is benefiting every time you align yourself with divine source. Every time. And that's really the only thing we have, is our connection with that incredible beauty. And remember that each one of us have a core at our inner that is whole. We are complete. We are in union with divine source at our center. So hold the torch high, guys. Hold the torch high. You are the torch. You are that light. And you can light your neighborhood, your city. You can light up wherever you are. You can light it, your Trader Joe's. You can light it up just by holding your connection to the source as being your primary focus. Hold that connection and hold the light high. Hold it high so it shines out. It won't make you a target. It'll make you a beacon. It's the way to go, kids. Christine, you want to add something here?
I kind of hate to not stop here because that was so beautiful, but I'm feeling directed to ask you about the EMF situation for us.
Well, we've been experiencing radically large solar flares, and the electromagnetic field that the planet suffers from, suffers the damage rather. And so there's been a couple of blasts from the sun that have been pretty overwhelming, pretty huge. We developed a while back a protocol for protecting ourselves from solar radiation. And I haven't taught it in a long time, but maybe I'll do a course on it, just an hour. It doesn't take a long time, but it is a more sophisticated version of simpler procedures that allow us to stand up to electromagnetic radiation pretty well.
Beautiful.
But, everything is being affected. The plants are being affected, the trees, the animals are running around in circles. My squirrel population is demonstrating electromagnetic influence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Boy, there was one morning about it. I don't know. It was the day of a big solar flare. I don't remember if it was a week ago or a month ago, but I woke up in the morning to like that, and it was 3 squirrels lined up outside my bedroom door, facing my door, going ha ha. I don't know what they were telling me, but it was, squirrel magic. That was a squirrely day for sure. Yeah, so talk to your animals, friends, Talk to them. Share the love. What can we do? It was so nice to be here with you. Thank you, Rona, for coming. I love you, Rona. I really do. I love you. Janice, I love you too. Thank you for being here. Jelaine, I don't know you well enough to say I love you, but I like you a lot. Christine, I love you so much. Nazi, I love you too. It's so good to see you. Megan, I love you. Smarty pants. I love you, Cher. It's nice to see my Cheryl. I love you, Elisa. Keep Paris sane. I'm getting to love you, Fred. I'm getting there. Yeah. It's a you too. I'm feeling you. Blessings. And Elizabeth, I love you to pieces. I just do. And Shensen, sweetie pie, honey bun, love her. Nancy, we'll get there. But I like you a lot. I do. Jasmine, I'm kind of liking the Mendo vibe. So I hope to see you again soon. Rosamond, you too. I'm feeling you. Diane, I love you. And I hope your cold gets better soon, sweetheart. I really do. Take care of your sweet selves. Blessings and love and joy.
We'll see you next month.
Yep. Come back. March 13th. Ask me anything. Unashamedly. And then Sangha Guardian is on March 8th. It's a wonderful meditation. And I'm waiting to be sort of inspired about what the topic is. I haven't gotten there. I'm kind of waiting to see what happens the end of February. When we go into March, I will do a Sangha based on what's going on. So blessings to everyone, blessings and love. May your life be filled with work and heart and joy and spiritual practice.